These stories are about creepy Airbnb owners who did things from stalking to attempted murder and even more weird activities. Noah and Sarah have been planning their winter getaway for months. They both needed a break from their everyday city life and decided to rent a cozy cabin in the snowy forest of Quebec. The pictures of the lodge they found online were breathtaking, and they couldn't wait to spend a week surrounded by nature and each other. As they drove up the winding roads towards the cabin, Sarah couldn't contain her excitement. The snow covered the trees with a peaceful atmosphere were a welcome change from the chaos of the city. Noah, on the other hand, couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had been creeping up on him since they left the main road. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but something about the cabin and its surroundings didn't feel right. When they finally arrived at the cabin, they were greeted by the owner, an old man named Jack. He seemed friendly enough, but there was something off about him. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes, and his movements were a little too calculated. Noah tried to brush off his concern, thinking it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. As they settled into the cabin, Sarah couldn't stop announcing how perfect everything was. The cozy fireplace, the hot tub on the deck, and the stunning view of the forest from every window. Noah, on the other hand, couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. He kept glancing over his shoulder, but there was no one there. That night, as they sat by the fireplace, sipping on hot cocoa, Sarah noticed that Noah seemed distant. She asked him what was wrong, but he just shook his head and said he was tired from the long drive. Sarah didn't press him, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that something was bothering him. The next morning, Sarah woke up to find Noah missing. She searched the entire cabin, but he was nowhere to be found. Panic started to set in as she realised that his car was also gone. She tried calling his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Sarah was about to call the police when she heard a knock on the door. It was Jack, the owner of the cabin. He had a concerned look on his face, and he asked Sarah if everything was okay. She explained that Noah was missing, and Jack offered to help her look for him. As they searched the surrounding area, Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling that Jack knew more than he was letting on. After hours of searching, they finally found Noah's car abandoned on the side of the road. Sarah's heart sank as she realised that something terrible must have happened to him. She turned to Jack, tears streaming down her face, and asked him if he knew anything. Jack's expression changed, and he suddenly seemed agitated. He told Sarah that he didn't know anything, and she should go back to the cabin and wait for the police to arrive. But Sarah couldn't just sit and wait. She had to find out what was happened to Noah. She snuck back into the cabin and searched through Jack's belongings. That's when she found a hidden room in the basement. Inside, she found a collection of newspaper clippings, all reporting the disappearances of young couples who had rented the cabin. Sarah's heart raced as she realised that Jack was a serial killer. Just then, she heard a noise coming from upstairs. She quickly hid in the closet and watched as Jack entered the room. He was carrying a large axe and was muttering to himself. Sarah's heart was pounding as she realised that she was in grave danger. She knew she had to escape, but she couldn't leave without finding out what happened to Noah. As Jack approached the closet, Sarah's heart was in her throat, but just as he was about to open the door, she heard a loud knock on the door. It was the police. They had been alerted by a neighbour who had seen Sarah sneaking back into the cabin. Jack quickly dropped the axe and tried to act innocent, but the police weren't fooled. As they searched the cabin, they found Noah's body hidden in a secret room in the attic. Sarah's worst fears had come true. She had narrowly escaped becoming Jack's next victim. As she sat in the back of a police car, she couldn't help but think about how close she had come to losing her life. The news of Jack's arrest spread quickly, and Sarah's story was all over the news. She had hailed as a survivor and a hero, but deep down, she couldn't help but feel guilty. If only she had listened to her gut and not brushed off Noah's unease. Maybe they could have avoided this tragedy. As she returned home, Sarah couldn't shake off the memories of her terrifying experience. She vowed to never ignore her instincts again, and to always trust her gut. She also made a promise to herself to never take life for granted, and to always cherish every moment with her ones she loved. The snowy forest and cozy cabin that was once her dream vacation spot had now become a nightmare, and she never would forget that. Joseph and Sam had been friends since they were kids. They did everything together, from playing in the park to going on adventures. As they grew older, their friendship only grew stronger. So when Joseph suggested they go on a holiday trip to the turquoise coast, Sam didn't hesitate to say yes. They had always dreamed of going on the trip together, and the turquoise coast seemed like a perfect destination. The crystal clear waters, the white sandy beaches, and the warm sun were all calling out to them. They quickly booked their tickets and found an Airbnb to stay in. The Airbnb was owned by a man named Mr. Arap. He seemed like a friendly and welcoming person when we met him. He showed them around the house and gave them tips on where to go and what to do. Joseph and Sam were excited to start their holiday and didn't think much of Mr. Arap. However, as the days went by, they started to notice some strange things. They would often see Mr. Arap lurking around the house, even when they were supposed to be alone. They also noticed that there was cameras in every room of the house, including the bedroom they were staying in. At first, they thought it was just for security purposes, but then started to feel unease. They couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being watched. Joseph and Sam decided to confront Mr. Arap about the cameras, but he just brushed it off, saying it was for safety. Joseph and Sam couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off about Mr. Arap. They started to do some research and found out that he had a history of strange and creepy behaviour. They also found out he had been accused of spying on his guests before. Feeling concerned and scared, Joseph and Sam decided to cut their trip short and leave the Airbnb. But as they were packing their bags, they heard a knock on the door. It was Mr. Arap, and he had a sinister smile on his face. "You can't just go now," he said, his voice sending shivers down their spines. "I have something special planned for you." Joseph and Sam were frozen in fear as Mr. Arap revealed his true intentions. He had been watching them through the cameras and had become obsessed with them. He wanted to keep them in his house forever, and he would do anything to make sure they never left. In a panic, Joseph and Sam tried to escape, but Mr. Arap had locked all the doors and windows. They were trapped, but they refused to give up. They fought back with all their might, trying to break free from Mr. Arap's grasp. In the chaos, Mr. Arap grabbed a knife and lunged at Joseph, but Sam managed to push Mr. Arap, causing him to fall and pierce himself with the knife. The knife ended up hitting Mr. Arap's chest. He laid there as blood poured out his chest, and he slowly passed away. Joseph and Sam were in shock. They couldn't believe what just happened. They quickly called the police and explained everything. The police arrived and confirmed that Mr. Arap was indeed a dangerous man who was wanted for his crimes. Feeling relieved and grateful to be alive, Joseph and Sam decided to continue their holiday. This time, they made sure to stay in a reputable hotel. As they were driving back home, Joseph and Sam couldn't help but feel haunted by the events that had taken place. They couldn't believe that someone they had trusted would betray them in such a twisted way. But they also couldn't help but feel grateful for each other's friendship. They had faced a terrifying experience together, and it's only made their bond stronger. They promised to always look out for each other and never take their safety for granted again. From that day on, Joseph and Sam never spoke of their holiday trip to the turquoise coast again. It was a memory that they wanted to forget, but it also served as a reminder to always be cautious and aware of their surroundings, no matter how safe a place may seem. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my kind of content, please consider subscribing for videos every Saturday.